Such a blizzard John couldn't remember in all his 30 years in the taiga. It started toward evening. The sky turned black. The wind struck from the north so hard that the cabin creaked at the seams. John barely managed to drive the dogs into the shed, secure the shutters, and haul in firewood. And then it began. The wind roared like a wounded beast. Pines bent to the ground, cracked and broke. The thunder of falling trees did not stop all night, as if a giant were walking through the taiga, crushing everything in its path. John sat by the stove, staring at the fire. Nearby lay his rifle, axe, and knife. Not against a beast, against fear. 57 years on Earth, 30 of them here in this remote place, 100 kilometers from the nearest village. He had seen everything: wolves, bears, rogue bears, escaped convicts, but he had never seen such a storm. The dogs howled in the shed, scratched at the door. They sensed something was wrong. John felt it too. There was something unnatural, something wrong in this blizzard, as if the taiga wasn't simply raging but was trying to uncover something. By dawn it quieted. John stepped out onto the porch and did not recognize his forest. Uprooted pines everywhere, broken spruces, piles of branches and trunks. The trails he had trodden for years had vanished under windfall. The taiga had changed in a single night, become alien, unfamiliar. The dogs rushed out of the shed, darted about sniffing, also unable to understand where they were or what had happened. "Quiet," John said. "We'll figure it out." He went back inside, packed a rucksack. Axe, knife, rope, flashlight, food for a day, rifle over his shoulder. Not for hunting, for peace of mind. He needed to walk his territory, assess the damage, understand what remained of his world. John walked through the taiga and did not recognize it. For 30 years he had traveled these paths. He knew every tree, every ravine, every stream. He could go from the cabin to the far winter hut with his eyes closed and never get lost. Now everything had changed. Old landmarks were gone. The ancient pine at the fork lay on the ground, torn out by the roots. The spruce grove by the stream had turned into a mess of broken trunks. Even the sky looked different. Through gaps in the crowns, the sun struck places that had not seen light for decades. He walked slowly, climbing over windfalls. The dogs, Gray and Squirrel, trotted beside him, sniffing cautiously. By noon he reached the Black Ravine. He had never liked this place. A gloomy ravine overgrown with spruce where even at midday it was dark. No game lived here, no berries grew, no mushrooms rose. A bad place, his father had said when he taught John the hunter's trade. His father used to say, "Stay away from the Black Ravine, there's nothing for you there." John asked why. His father never answered, only frowned and changed the subject. Now the Black Ravine had changed. The blizzard had raged here especially fiercely. Half the spruce grove was down. The huge pine that had grown on the edge of the ravine, the very one John remembered from childhood, lay on its side, roots ripped out. The root ball, 3 meters across, stuck out of the earth like a frozen explosion, and beneath the roots a hole. Not just a hole. A black, deep pit descending into the ground. From the pit came a strange, unearthly cold and something else. John sniffed. The smell of decay, old and ingrained, a smell he knew well. That was how a beast smelled after lying under snow all winter. That was the smell of death. The dogs whimpered, backed away, refused to come closer. "Quiet," John said. "Sit." He approached the pit, crouched, took out the flashlight and shone it downward, and froze. It was not just a hole. Beneath the pine roots was an entrance reinforced with logs, lined with stones. Steps descending. Rough, handmade, but clearly human. Someone had built this long ago, many years ago, right here in the remote taiga, 100 kilometers from any settlement. John stared at the steps and felt ice spreading inside him. He had grown up in these parts, hunted here with his father and grandfather, knew the history of every homestead, every winter hut. He knew who lived in the area, who hunted, who trapped. He had never heard a single word, not even a hint, about an underground structure in the Black Ravine. "Why?" John took out his axe, checked it, sharp, reliable, rifle over his shoulder, cartridges in his pocket. If someone was down there, he was ready, though the smell of decay spoke for itself. This place had been abandoned long ago, very long ago. John began to descend. The steps went down about 3 meters, walls roughly cut into clay, reinforced with logs. Ceiling low, he had to stoop. The air was musty, heavy, smelling of dampness, rot, and that same decay. The deeper he went, the stronger it became. At the bottom of the steps, a door. Massive wood, blackened with age. Rusty hinges crusted with oxidation. John pushed. It did not yield, pushed harder. It creaked and opened a crack. Another push, it swung wide with a long groan. He stepped inside and froze. A bunker, not military, not state, homemade. A room 5 by 6 meters lined with logs. Low ceiling braced with posts. Earthen floor packed hard. Against one wall, rough plank bunks with a rotting mattress and remnants of a blanket. Against another wall, a table and bench. On the table, dishes, bowls, mugs, spoons. All rusted, covered with dust. Shelves on the walls, jars, bottles, bundles. A small homemade stove. The pipe went up through the ceiling. Someone had lived here for a long time, thoroughly, dug himself a burrow underground like a badger. But why's who? John swept the flashlight around the room and stopped on something in the corner, something that made him recoil. A cage, iron cage 1 meter by 1.5 meter high, thick bars roughly welded, door locked with a rusty but solid padlock. Inside the cage, a small skeleton, child-sized, curled in fetal position, shackles on the wrists chained to the bars. John looked and could not breathe. A child in a cage, in shackles, in an underground bunker, in the middle of the remote taiga. What had happened here? John did not remember how he got out. He sat on the fallen pine, stared at the sky. His hands shook, his heart pounded. 57 years, 30 in the taiga. He had seen death 1,000 times, frozen hunters, people mauled by bears, mushroom pickers drowned in bogs. He thought he was used to it. He was. What he had seen below did not fit in his head. A child in a cage, a skeleton in shackles, underground, in a place no one knew about. Who had done this? Who built this bunker? Who kept a child there? And why? The dogs came close, nudged his knees with their noses. They sensed their master was not well. John stroked them absently, without looking. He had to think, decide what to do. Call the police. The nearest connection was 40 kilometers away, the village 100. He could reach it by evening if lucky. If unlucky, he would be stuck in Windfall another day. Or maybe first examine everything, understand what happened, gather information to tell. John stood up. His legs trembled but held. He had to go down again, examine the bunker, find evidence, understand who, when, why. It was the right thing, it was necessary, and it was terrifying. The second descent was easier. John knew what he would see. He prepared himself, breath through his mouth to avoid the smell, shone the flashlight straight ahead, ignoring the corners. The cage with the child's skeleton stayed behind. He forced himself not to look. First examine the rest, understand context, then return to the main thing. The table. John approached and began sorting through objects. Enameled Soviet bowls, bent aluminum spoons, tin mugs with peeling paint. Everything old from the 70s and 80s. On the shelf, jars, canned meat, groats, salt, all expired, rotten, but labels still readable. Beef stew, GOST 1975. Condensed milk 1982. Fish preserves 1989. The person had lived here for a long time. Decades, stockpiled food, settled in. John opened the table drawer. Inside, yellowed, brittle papers. He took one out carefully, unfolded it. A regular school exercise book, squared. On the cover, faded but legible inscription, Diary, Volume 7. Volume 7, that meant there had been 6 more. John opened the first page. March 5, 1987. Brought the new one, a girl about 8 years old, found her at the station walking alone. Stupid, trusting, got in the car herself. Now she's here. Let her get used to it. John read and felt everything inside him freeze. This was not just a bunker. This was a prison for children. He read the diary for 2 hours, sitting on the bench, turning pages. Absorbing the words, terrible words, inhuman words. Entries over the years, 1987 to 1995. 8 years. The author did not name himself, simply I. He described his life matter-of-factly, the way a farmer describes a harvest. April 12, 1987. The girl cries for the 3rd day, got tired of it, hit her on the head, calmed down. June 3, 1987. The girl stopped eating, forced her. I know methods. August 28, 1987. The girl died, was weak, buried her behind the bunker near the big stone. John turned pages and found new entries, new children, new victims. September 15, 1987. Found a boy by the river, about 10 years old, sturdy. This one will last longer. January 2, 1988. The boy tried to escape, punished, now in shackles, won't run. March 17, 1988. The boy died, lasted 3 months, record. The entries continued year after year, children one after another. Boys, girls, different ages, different names when the author bothered to write them. Different ways of dying, died from beatings, suffocated, strangled himself with a belt, how he managed it. Kidneys failed, froze, forgot to heat. Some entries were more detailed, described what the author did to the children before death. John read and felt nausea rising. This was not just a killer. This was a monster, a creature that fed on children's suffering. And it lived here in this taiga, 100 kilometers from John's house, all this time. The last entry, October 12, 1995. Tired, heart misbehaving, legs don't walk, old age. Buried the last one yesterday, enough time to stop. Winter soon, need to return to the village. Let the bunker stand. Maybe I'll come back in spring, maybe not. That was it. The diary ended. John sat motionless, staring at the closed notebook. The author left in 1995, almost 30 years ago. Whether he was alive or dead, unknown. But the bunker remained, and the children remained. Buried behind the bunker near the big stone. John stood up, his legs shook but held. He had to go outside, find the graves, find out how many. He searched until dark, walked around the bunker, examined the ground, looked for subsidence, small mounds, stones. Found the first grave near the big boulder as written in the diary. The earth had sunk, forming a depression, child-sized, 1 meter long, half a meter wide. The second under an old spruce, the third at birch roots, 4th, 5th, 6th. John counted, marked the places with stones so he wouldn't lose them. By darkness, he counted 17 child graves. 17 children killed in this place over 20 years. John sat on the ground, looked at the forest, the sky, the stars appearing through the crowns. 17. He thought he was used to death. 30 years in the taiga taught him, a beast dies, a man dies, that's life. Accept it and move on. But this was not death. This was murder. Cold, methodical murder of defenseless little children. Who could do this? What kind of person, if that can even be called a person? John remembered the diary, even handwriting. Neat. Businesslike entries without emotion, as if the author was keeping livestock records, not torturing children. Who was he? Where from? How did he live all those years among people, next to people? John realized he had to search. There had to be a clue in the diary, a name, a place, something. He returned to the bunker, searched until midnight, turned the place upside down, shelves, drawers, corners. Found 3 more diaries, volumes 4, 5, and 6. The rest had either rotted or were somewhere else. He read, flipped pages, searched, and found. In volume 6, on the last page, June 3, 1994. Brother came, Peter is a fool, asked what I do, why I'm always in the forest. Brushed him off hunting mushrooms, believed it. Peter has always been gullible, idiot. Brother Peter. John reread it. The author's brother, Peter, lives somewhere nearby, doesn't know what his brother does. That was a lead. John searched further, found other mentions. August 14, 1994. Was in the village for father's funeral. Peter wept. Fool, I didn't. The old man was a bastard. Good riddance. Village, father's funeral. John thought. In 1994, in which village near his hunting grounds were old men buried. 3 villages: Pine Village, Birch Village, Crawford Village. Crawford Village was closest, 50 kilometers south. John remembered. In the 90s, he went to Crawford Village to sell pelts, buy supplies, knew some locals. Who died in 1994, who buried a father. Memory prompted, old man Crawford, Peter Semyonovich Crawford, forester, worked in the timber company, died in 94. Yes, John remembered. Peter Semyonovich had 2 sons. Younger Peter stayed in the village, worked as a tractor driver. And the elder, Simon Peterovich Crawford. John went cold. He knew this man. Simon Peterovich Crawford. John sat in the bunker, stared at the diary and could not believe it. He had known this man since childhood. Uncle Simon, his father's elder brother, quiet, unnoticeable, always on the sidelines. Came to family gatherings, sat in the corner, was silent, gave John candy, little bear-shaped chocolates. Rare treat back then. John remembered his hands, large, rough, calloused. Foresters' workers' hands. Remembered his voice, quiet, expressionless. Remembered his eyes, pale, watery, always looking past. Uncle Simon never married, lived alone in a cabin on the edge of Crawford Village. A bachelor, they said. Odd but harmless. Harmless. John looked at the cage in the corner, at the child's skeleton in shackles. Harmless. Nausea rose. He barely made it outside, bent over by the entrance and vomited, long and painfully until bile. The dogs came, whimpered. They didn't understand what was wrong with their master. John caught his breath, wiped his mouth with his sleeve, sat on the ground, leaned against the fallen pine. Uncle Simon, Simon Peterovich Crawford. A monster. John did not sleep all night, sat by the fire, stared at the flames, thought. Uncle Simon died in 98, heart attack while hunting, found 3 days later already stiff, buried in Crawford Village Cemetery next to his parents. John had been at the funeral, stood by the grave, listened as the priest read prayers, thought, strange man, unloved but one of us, our blood. That thought burned like hot iron. Uncle Simon, his father's brother, his own blood. They grew up in the same house, slept in the same room, ate from the same pot. His father, a normal man, hunter, hard worker, family man, raised John, taught him everything, died 5 years ago quietly in his sleep. Good man. And his brother, a murderer, a child murderer, a monster. How could that be possible? How could 2 such different people come from the same family? John remembered childhood, family feasts, holidays, Uncle Simon always on the sidelines, silent, watching. John thought he was simply withdrawn. Some people are like that, don't like company, prefer solitude. Now he understood. Uncle Simon was not withdrawn. He was different. Inside him lived something dark, hungry, something that fed on other people's pain. And no one noticed, not his father, not grandmother, not neighbors. No one. Or they did notice. John remembered his father's words, long ago in childhood. Stay away from Simon, he's strange. John hadn't understood then. Now he did. His father knew or suspected, felt something wrong in his brother, but stayed silent. Why? Because blood, because family, because they don't wash dirty linen in public. And 17 children paid for that silence. In the morning, John made a decision. He had to go to the village, report to the police, tell everything about the bunker, the diaries, the graves. It was the right thing, the only possible thing. But first, he had to do one more thing. John returned to the bunker, gathered all 4 diaries he found, put them in the rucksack, wrapped them in oilcloth against dampness. Then examined the bunker once more, methodically, carefully. Looked for evidence, proof, anything that could help identify the victims. Found little, children's things, what remained. Scraps of clothing, shoes, hair clips, all rotten, decayed, but some survived. A child's shoe, size 30, on the sole stamped Skorokhod, Leningrad. A dress, or what remained of it, cotton with polka dots, size for an 8-year-old girl. A toy, a plush rabbit, shabby, one ear torn off, on its belly embroidered, to Katya from Mommy. John held the rabbit and felt his throat tighten. Katya, a little girl named Katya, Mommy gave her the rabbit. Maybe for her birthday, maybe just because. The girl loved it, carried it everywhere. And then disappeared. Ended up here in the bunker, in the cage. What happened to her? John opened the diary, began searching, flipped pages looking for the name. Found it. May 23, 1989. Katya died, held on long, almost half a year. Strong one, shame, shame. John closed the diary, put the rabbit in the rucksack carefully, like a relic. Katya deserved to be remembered. All 17 deserved it. The journey to the village took 2 days. The blizzard had felled trees, blocked paths. John made his way through windfalls, detoured ravines. The dogs walked beside him, tired, hungry, but loyal. By evening of the 2nd day, he reached Crawford Village. The village had hardly changed since his last visit. Same log houses, same fences, same vegetable gardens. Only fewer people. Many houses boarded up, abandoned. John went to the old village council building, its paint peeling. There was a telephone, the only one in the village. Chairman Mikko, an old man of about 70, met him on the porch. "John Crawford, what happened to you?" "I need the telephone," John said, "to call the police." Mikko frowned. "Police, why?" "No time to explain, let me call." Mikko led him inside. An old rotary phone stood on a table covered with oilcloth. John dialed, waited for an answer. "Police, I need to report a crime. Murder, many murders. No, not now, long ago. Children, 17 children." Silence on the line. Then the voice changed. "Repeat that." 17 children. Yes, I found burials and a bunker where they were kept, in the taiga, Black Ravine. Stay where you are, we're coming. The police arrived the next day. 2 UAZ vehicles, 6 men. A young captain with tired eyes, the investigator. 2 forensic technicians with cases of equipment. 3 plainclothes operatives, strong guys. John met them on the village outskirts and led them into the taiga, along the trail he had blazed 2 days earlier. They walked in silence. The officers asked no questions. Apparently they had received instructions. Only the investigator occasionally glanced at John, studying, assessing. By evening they reached the Black Ravine. John showed them the bunker, showed the graves, handed over the diaries and the items the toy included. Captain Sokolov read the entries and went pale. This is a serial killer," he said. 20 years, 17 victims. How did no one know?" "He hid," John answered. "Lived in the village, worked as a forester, came here secretly." "You know who it was?" John was silent for a moment. The answer came hard. The words scraped his throat, refused to come out. "Crawford, Simon Peter Rovich Crawford, forester from Crawford Village, died in 98. Sokolov wrote it down, then raised his eyes. You said Crawford, a relative. John looked at the bunker, at the black entrance descending into the earth. Uncle, he said, my father's brother. The next days blurred together. Forensics worked, exhumed remains, collected evidence. John showed the graves, all 17, helped dig Carey Pack. The bodies, or what remained of them, were taken to the district for examination, identification, reports. The investigator questioned John several times, in detail, how he found it, what he saw, what he knew about his uncle. John answered honestly, nothing to hide. Did you ever suspect him? Sokolov asked. Never. Did he seem strange to you? John thought. He seemed odd, but not like that. I thought he was just unsociable, a loner, bachelor, those exist. And your father, did he say anything? He said once, stay away from Simon, but he never explained why. And you didn't ask? No, I was a child. He was an adult. It wasn't done to ask. Sokolov nodded, wrote something in his notebook. We'll check the archives, he said. Missing children, unsolved cases. Maybe we can identify them. How long it will take, I don't know, months, maybe years. The records are incomplete, some files lost. John nodded. He understood it wouldn't be quick, but at least something, at least some justice. On the 5th day, journalists arrived. John didn't understand how they found out. Maybe someone in the police talked. Maybe rumors spread from the village. 2 journalists from the regional newspaper. They pushed microphones, asked questions. How do you feel? How did you discover the bunker? Is it true the killer was your relative? John was silent, turned away, walked off, did not want to talk to them or anyone. But the story had already broken free. Bunker of death in the Vologda Taiga. 17 child skeletons underground. Forester maniac terrorized the region for 20 years. Screaming headlines, terrifying photographs, the bunker, the graves, investigators in white suits. And the name, Simon Peter Rovich Crawford. Killer. In Crawford village, John returned a week later. The village met him with silence. The few remaining people looked away, hid behind fences. No one greeted him. No one spoke to him. John understood. Simon Crawford had been a local, born here, grew up here, lived his whole life here. People knew him as a neighbor, as a forester, as a man. Now they knew something else. And they could not forgive themselves for not noticing, for not stopping it, for allowing a monster to live among them. John went to the cemetery. Uncle Simon's grave was in the far corner under an old birch, simple wooden cross, plaque with name and dates. Crawford Simon Peter Rovich, 1938-1998. Nearby his parents' graves, father, mother, grandparents. Family. John stood at the grave and did not know what he felt. Anger, yes. Disgust, yes. Shame also. But something else too, something dark, terrible. Relief that Uncle Simon was dead, that he did not have to look him in the eyes, that he did not have to ask why, because there was no answer, no explanation, nothing that could justify 17 child deaths. John spat on the grave, turned and left. That evening Peter, Uncle Simon's younger brother, son of the same father and mother, came to him. John had not seen him in 20 years, since the funeral. Peter had aged, 72, gray, stooped, but the same Crawford eyes light watery. "Can I come in?" he asked from the threshold. John nodded, let him in, sat him at the table, poured tea silently without asking. Peter sat, stared into the mug. His hands trembled. "I didn't know," he said finally. "I swear I didn't know." Simon was strange, from childhood, tortured cats, set fire to barns, father beat him, didn't help, mother cried, prayed, didn't help. Why didn't anyone report it, to the police, to a doctor? Peter raised his eyes. What police? We're in the village, we solve our own problems, and back then he wasn't killing anyone, just strange. And then he went into the forest, became a forester, lived alone, rarely came back. We thought he calmed down, found his place. Peter fell silent, stared into emptiness, into the past. I'm guilty, he said. We're all guilty. We saw, we were silent, we felt, we didn't speak. Thought it'll pass, it didn't. No. Peter covered his face with his hands. 17 children, Lord, 17. John was silent. What could he say? Peter was not guilty, not directly, he didn't kill, didn't hide bodies, just lived next to a monster, and didn't notice, like all of them. That night John lay awake, stared at the ceiling, listened to the silence, thought. Uncle Simon was dead. Impossible to punish him, impossible to try him. He went unpunished, took his secrets to the grave. But something could still be done. Find the families who lost children. Tell them the truth. It would be terrible, but the truth. Give them a chance to bury their children, put up crosses, pray. It wouldn't bring the children back, wouldn't change the past, but at least it would close the wound. John got up, lit the lamp, took out the diaries. The police had made copies and returned the originals. He began reading again, carefully, looking for names, dates, places, anything that could help find the families. He worked until dawn. By the end of the week, John had compiled a list, 11 names, the ones he managed to extract from the diaries, incomplete names, nicknames, Katia, Gray, Red, Little One. That was how Uncle Simon called his victims, not as people, as livestock. But some things were useful, approximate dates of abductions from the entries. Sometimes places were mentioned, found at the station, picked up on the highway, took in the district center. John spread the notes on the table, compared, analyzed. 30 years in the taiga had taught him patience, to track an animal for hours, to wait for days. Now he was tracking something else, the truth. Captain Sokolov came every 2 days, brought news, scarce, but important. We raised the archives, he said during one visit. Missing children cases from the 70s to the 90s in our region, 47 unsolved. 47. Yes, not all his victims, many drowned, got lost, ran away from home, but some, Sokolov fell silent, some match. He took out a folder, opened it, showed photograph, children, black and white school pictures, smiling faces, trusting eyes. Catherine Morris, 8 years old, disappeared May 1989, walking home from school, never arrived. John looked at the photograph, a girl with braids in school uniform, smiling shyly, uncertainly. Katia, the one whose rabbit remained in the bunker. That's her, John said. Sokolov nodded. We found the mother, lives in the district center, alone. Father died 10 years ago, never learned what happened to his daughter. Does she know? Not yet, waiting for examination results, exact confirmation, DNA, dentistry. How long? 2 or 3 weeks. John looked at the photograph, at the face of the girl who never grew up. 2 or 3 weeks. And the mother had waited 35 years. While the police worked, John did his own work. Walked to neighboring villages, Pine Village, Birch Village, Crawford Village. Talked to old people who remembered the 70s and 80s. Asked about missing children. Strange incidents, Uncle Simon. People spoke reluctantly, afraid, not of the police, of something else, afraid to remember, to disturb the past. But they spoke. Grandma Anna from Pine Village, 90 years old, remembered even the war, told about a boy who disappeared in 78. Little Vasya Titsin, 10 years old, went fishing, never came back. The whole village searched for a week. Didn't find him, thought he drowned. What else could we think? The river's right there, strong current, it happened, carried people away. And Simon Crawford, do you remember him? Grandma Anna fell silent. Her face darkened. Simon, I remember, strange one, walked past, looked wrong at the children, at Vasya too. Even then I thought, why is he starring like that? And then Vasya disappeared. And I thought maybe Simon, but I chased the thought away. Sinful to think such things about a person. Why didn't you tell anyone? Who to tell? Police. What would I say? Simon looked strangely. They laugh, or worse, I'd get in trouble for slander. John understood. Village, not city. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone in plain sight. Accuse a neighbor without proof, make an enemy for life. People stayed silent, not because they didn't see, because they were afraid to be wrong. 2 weeks later, the first examination results came. Sokolov arrived in person, pale, dark circles under his eyes, clearly hadn't slept, working around the clock. Identified 4, he said. Who? Catherine Morris, 1989. Vasily Titsin, 1978. Olga Semenova, 1983. Dmitry Kozlov, 1991. 4 out of 17. The rest still unknown. How were they identified? Mostly dentistry, dental records, fillings. Catherine's DNA matched her mother. The mother knows. Yesterday they told her. How is she? Sokolov was silent for a moment. Bad, called an ambulance, heart attack. John closed his eyes. Imagined a woman who for 35 years did not know where her daughter was. Hoped maybe she was alive, somewhere far away. Maybe she would return. And now the truth, terrible, final, daughter dead, murdered, body in a pit underground. What heart could bear that? The other families, John asked. We're searching. Titsin's moved to Cherepovets, we've contacted them. Kozlov's father dead, mother in a nursing home. Semenov's whole family died in a car crash in '95. Semenova won't know. No one to tell. Olga Semenova, a girl no one was waiting for. Family gone. Didn't live to learn the truth. That was worse than anything. Not death, oblivion when no one remembers, no one mourns. John decided to visit Morris. He didn't know why, just felt he had to. He was the one who found the bunker. He dug up the graves. He bore responsibility. Catherine's mother lived in the district center. Old 5-story building on the outskirts, 3rd floor, peeling door. John rang for a long time. No one opened. Then footsteps, lock clicked. On the threshold, a woman about 65, gray, red eyes from crying, thin, worn out, as if illness had sucked the life from her. Who are you? John Crawford. I'm the one who found your daughter. The woman looked at him for a long time in silence, then stepped aside. Come in. Small apartment, poor. Old Soviet furniture, photographs on the walls, many photographs, all of the same girl, Katia at different ages, baby, toddler, schoolgirl, the last one the one from the case, 8 years old, braids, school uniform. Nina Morris sat at the table, hands on her knees clenched into fists. Tell me, she said, everything I want to know. John sat opposite, thought how to begin, what words to use to describe what he had seen. I'm a hunter, he began. I live alone in the taiga. After the blizzard, I went to check my territory and found a hole in the ground. He spoke slowly, carefully, omitted details that could kill, said about the cage, did not say about the shackles, said about the diaries, did not say about the contents. Nina Morris listened in silence, did not cry, tears apparently had run out. Did she suffer? She asked when John fell silent. What to answer? The truth was impossible, alive, vile. I don't know, he said, but she wasn't alone. There were other children there, maybe they supported each other. Weak comfort, but something. Nina Morris nodded. I searched for her, she said. 35 years, every day I waited, thought she'd come back, thought she was alive somewhere, just couldn't get in touch. I understand. No, she shook her head. You don't, no one does. When a child disappears, time stops. You go on living, working, eating, sleeping, but inside emptiness, a hole that never heals. John was silent, listened. My husband couldn't bear it, she continued. Started drinking, died 10 years ago, liver, and I held on, waited. Now you know. Yes, now I know. She looked at him. You found her, you brought my daughter back to me. I only found her, the police did the rest. No, you found her, you could have walked past, could have not gone down, could have not reported it, but you didn't. John didn't know what to say, looked at his hands, rough hands, calloused, hands that killed animals, hands that found children's bones. I did what I had to, he said finally. Thank you, Nina Morris said. Thank you for not walking past. John left her apartment drained, walked down the street without seeing where he was going, past houses, past people, past life. Inside, emptiness. He had done the right thing, found, reported, helped. That was good. But why did it hurt so much? Because this was not the end. This was the beginning. The beginning of pain that would never end. 17 children, 17 families, 17 mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers. All of them would learn, all would suffer. And nothing could be undone. Uncle Simon was dead, impossible to punish him. Only remember. Remember the victims, remember the pain, remember. John stopped, looked at the gray, low sky. He could not return to the taiga, not now, not after everything he had learned. The taiga was his home, his life, but now it was poisoned. Every tree, every stone, reminded him of the bunker, the graves, the cage with the child's skeleton. How to live further, how to hunt, set traps, skin animals, knowing that 5 kilometers away his uncle had tortured children for 20 years. John did not know the answer. He stayed in the district center, rented a room from an old woman, Aunt Clara, a distant relative of his mother, paid from his savings, not much, but enough. The dogs Gray and Squirrel stayed in the taiga. A neighboring hunter promised to look after them, feed them. He winterized the cabin. John did not know whether he would return, did not know whether he wanted to. Days dragged slowly. He helped Sokolov, rode with the police to villages, identified places, translated entries from the diaries, did something to keep from going mad. Gradually, they identified more victims. 5th, Alex Voronov, 7 years old, disappeared 1975. Mother searched for 49 years and waited. 6th, Irene Belova, 9 years old, 1981, parents dead, but a sister remained, also an old woman now. 7th, 8th, 9th. By November they identified 11 out of 17. 6 remained unknown. Too few clues. Too much time passed. In late November, John made a decision. Uncle Simon's grave stood in the cemetery, cross, plaque, earth mound, like any normal person. That was wrong. John went to Sokolov. I want to exhume him, he said, and rebury him. Why? He doesn't deserve to lie next to normal people, next to my parents. Sokolov thought for a long time. It's your right, he said finally. You're the closest relative, you can decide about the remains. Then let's do it. The exhumation was done in December. They raised the rotten, crumbling coffin, inside bones, rags, dust. John looked and felt nothing, no anger, no disgust, only cold. This was not a person, this was a monster. And his place was not in a cemetery. The remains were taken far into the wilderness, to a place where no one went, buried in a pit, without a cross, without a plaque. The grave in the cemetery was leveled with the ground. Nothing remained, no mound, no trace. Simon Peterovich Crawford disappeared completely, forever. Winter came early and harsh. Snow covered the district center in early December and did not stop for 2 weeks. Roads drifted over, buses stopped running. The town froze under a white shroud. John sat in his room, looked out the window. Beyond the glass, snow, 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 endless, indifferent. He had not gone out for 3 days. No strength, no desire. Aunt Clara brought food silently, did not ask questions, put the plate on the table, left. She understood a man was suffering. Such pain is not cured by words. John barely ate, barely slept, lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling, thought about the bunker, about the cage, about children's bones in shackles. The images did not let go. Pursued him by day, appeared at night. Close your eyes and he was there again, underground in darkness, among the dead. A doctor, a young woman from the clinic, came twice, examined him, listened, shook her head. Post-traumatic stress disorder, she said. You need help, a psychologist, maybe a psychiatrist. No need. You don't sleep, you don't eat, it's dangerous. I'll manage. The doctor left pills. John did not take them, did not believe in pills, did not believe they would help. What could help? Forgetting was impossible. Such things are not forgotten. They cut into memory like a brand. Forgive whom? Uncle Simon for what? For 17 child lives. No, no forgiveness, never. On the 4th day Sokolov came. The investigator looked no better than John. Worn out, inflamed eyes, the bunker case had drained him. How are you? He asked from the threshold. Alive, that's already a lot. Sokolov sat on the chair, rubbed his face. I have news, identified 2 more. Who? Marina Kozlova, 6 years old, disappeared 1976, and Andrew Smith, 11 years old, 1988. John nodded. 2 more names, 2 more families. How many unidentified left? 4, I'm afraid. They may stay that way, too long ago, too few clues. 4 nameless, 4 children no one will identify, no one will bury. I want to put up a monument for them, John said. Sokolov raised his eyes. A monument? Yes, in the Black Ravine, on the site of the bunker, so people remember. The investigator was silent, thought. That's a good idea, he said finally. But expensive, complicated, need permits, approvals. I'll handle it myself. I'll find the money. Where from? John looked out the window, at the snow, at the gray sky. I'll sell the cabin, the hunting grounds, everything I have. Are you sure that was your life 30 years? Now it is. Sokolov did not argue, understood it was useless. A week later John went to the regional center, met officials, explained for a long time, proved, asked. A monument to victims of a serial killer, an unusual request. Bureaucrats frowned, looked for reasons to refuse, but did not refuse. Perhaps they were ashamed, perhaps afraid of scandal. The bunker story thundered across the country. Journalists would not calm down. Permission received by late January. Place Black Ravine, where the bunker stood. Format steel with names, no religious symbols. Money was found, sold the cabin, sold the hunting grounds, everything he had accumulated over 30 years given for the monument. Barely enough. Granite steel, engraving, installation, expensive but possible. Work began in April when the snow melted. John came to the Black Ravine for the first time since autumn. The place had changed, windfalls cleared, bunker filled with earth, only the pit remained where the graves had been. Workers, 2 men from the district, dug the foundation silently, concentratedly. They knew what they were working for. John stood aside, watched, thought about the children buried here, about their last minutes, last breaths. They were alone, in darkness, in fear. No one came to help, no one saved them. Now he was here. Too late, far too late. But at least something. The monument was unveiled in May. Steel 2 meters high, gray granite. On the front side 17 names, 13 full with surnames and dates, 4 unknown. Unknown boy, about 8 years old. Unknown girl, about 8 years old. Unknown boy, about 10 years old. Unknown girl, about 10 years old. Below inscription: to the children who perished at the hands of a murderer, 1973-1995, we remember, we grieve. Families of the victims came to the opening, those who could be found, parents, brothers, sisters, aged, broken, but alive. Nina Morris, Kadia's mother, stood by the stele, touched her daughter's name, wept quietly, soundlessly. Beside her, Maria Titsina, Vasia's sister, 72, gray, bent. Her brother disappeared when she was 15. Every year on his birthday she lit a candle in church. Now she knew where to place it. Journalists came but kept their distance. Sokolov had warned, no questions, no cameras, respect for grief. Father Michael from the district church held a memorial service, sang prayers, censed with incense. His voice, low, deep, carried over the ravine. Grant rest, O Lord, to the souls of thy departed servants. John stood at the back, looked at the stele, at the names, thought about those who lay beneath it. Children small, defenseless, they should have lived, grown up, loved, had children of their own. They didn't, they remained here in the earth, under stone. He did what he could, found them, named them, erected a monument. It was little, nothing compared to what they lost. But at least something. After the ceremony, Nina Morris approached him. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, thank you. It was the least I could do. You are a good man, John, kind." John shook his head. "I'm not kind, I'm guilty." "Of what?" "The murderer. My uncle, my blood, my family." Nina Morris looked at him, long, attentively. "You are not him," she said. "You do not answer for his sins. I could have known, could have noticed, could have stopped him. You were a child when it began. You lived in the taiga while it continued. You are not guilty." John was silent, wanted to believe her, could not. "Listen," Nina Morris continued. "For 35 years I hated my daughter's killer. Without knowing who he was, I hated. Imagined finding him, killing him with my own hands, and now he is dead, and the hatred is gone, only emptiness remains." She took his hand. "Do not take someone else's guilt on yourself. It is not your burden, yours is different. What is mine? To live on, to do good, to help those who are suffering." John looked at her, at the old woman who lost a child, broken but not defeated. If she could live, maybe he could too. Spring turned to summer, summer to autumn. John stayed in the district center, rented a small apartment, took a job as a watchman at the local school, low salary, but enough. The job was simple, rounds, checks, keys, nothing complicated. But children. Everyday schoolchildren ran past him, noisy, cheerful, alive. He looked at them and remembered those from the bunker, those who did not make it, those who were stolen in the middle of an ordinary day and taken into darkness. Now he stood guard, watched so no stranger could enter, so no child disappeared. It was the least he could do. The principal, Elena, a strict woman of about 50, treated him with respect, knew his story, knew what he had been through. "You could have left," she said once, "started over somewhere far away. Why did you stay?" John thought about the answer. "Here is my guilt, my responsibility. To leave would be to forget, and I don't want to forget." "You are punishing yourself." "Maybe, but it's right." Elena did not argue, understood everyone has their own path. In October, John received a letter, ordinary envelope, handwritten. Return address, Cherepovets, Titsins. Vasia's family. John opened it, began reading. Dear John Crawford, this is Maria Titsina, Vasia's sister. We met at the monument opening, but I didn't have time to say everything I wanted. Thank you. These 2 words are nothing compared to what you did for us. For 46 years we did not know what happened to Vasia. For 46 years our mother waited at the window. She died in 2010, never learning the truth. But I learned thanks to you. Now my brother has a grave. Now I can come to him, talk, cry. Now he is not missing. He is buried, mourned, at rest. You returned Vasya to us. You returned peace to us. I know the killer was your relative. I know how hard it is for you, but do not blame yourself. You are not him. You are the one who stopped him, late, after his death. But you stopped him, exposed his secret, showed the world his evil. That is important. That is necessary. Thank you, John Crawford, for everything. With respect, Maria Titsina. John read the letter and felt something inside thaw. 46 years. Maria waited 46 years and waited thanks to him. It was not redemption. Redemption does not exist. Guilt cannot be canceled. The past cannot be changed. But it was something, a small light in endless darkness. Letters kept coming, from the Kozlovs, Dima's relatives, from the Smiths, Andrew's family, from others who learned the truth, who found peace. John read every letter carefully, kept them in a box under the bed, sometimes reread them when it became very bad. People thanked him. People said he had done a good deed. Maybe so, maybe not. John did not know. He only knew he had to keep living, working, guarding, being where he was needed. The school became his home, the children his family. He knew them all by name. Mary from 2nd grade, Peter from 4th, the Sidorenko twins from 7th. He watched them unobtrusively, unnoticeably, followed with his eyes when they left for home, checked in the morning had everyone returned. Once he noticed a strange man by the fence, standing, watching the playground too long, too attentively. John approached. Are you looking for someone? The man started, turned, ordinary face, expressionless. No, just looking. You can't stand here, leave. The man left. Maybe an ordinary passerby, maybe not. John wrote down the description, told the local officer, just in case, better to overdo it. The man never appeared again. Winter passed, then another, then a third. John had worked at the school for 4 years already. Aged, hair completely gray, face lined with wrinkles. Legs hurt more and more, the years in the taiga taking their toll, but he continued, worked, watched, guarded. Children got used to him, called him Uncle John, brought him candies from the cafeteria. He grumbled for show, in reality rejoiced. It was misfortune, happiness he did not deserve, but peace, fragile, unreliable, but peace. Every May he went to the monument, stood by the stele, looked at the names, spoke quietly so no one would hear. Hello kids, it's me, came to visit. Laid 17 carnations, one for each, lit small church candles. I remember you every day, I remember, I will never forget. Stood like that for an hour or two until the candles burned out. Then left until next year. In the 5th year, something unexpected happened. John was sitting in his small duty room at the school when there was a knock at the door. Come in. A woman about 40 on the threshold, tired, dark circles under her eyes, folder of papers in her hands. John Crawford. Yes. My name is Olga. I'm from the Victims Support Foundation. May I speak with you? John nodded, pointed to a chair. Olga sat, put the folder on her lap, paused, gathering her thoughts. I know your story, she began. Everyone knows the bunker, the children, the monument. You did the impossible. I did what had to be done. That's exactly why I'm here. She opened the folder. Our foundation works with families who lost loved ones to crime. We help them survive, recover, live on, and we would like to offer you a job. John did not understand. What job? I'm a watchman, not a psychologist, not a lawyer. You don't need to be a psychologist, Olga said, looking straight at him, openly. You need to be yourself, a person who went through hell and survived, who found the strength not to break. I broke. No, you bent but did not break. Those are different things. John was silent, did not know what to answer. Families of victims, Olga continued, often feel alone, think no one understands their pain, no one knows what it's like to lose a child, husband, wife. I didn't lose a child. No, but you found 17 children whom people search for decades. You returned them to families. That's experience too, important experience. She took a photograph from the folder. A young woman about 30, beautiful, smiling. This is Marina Kovalov. 3 years ago her son Misha, 7 years old, was abducted. Body found a month later. John looked at the photograph, at the face of the woman who lost everything. Marina is not coping, Olga continued. Psychologists tried, didn't help. She closed herself off, lets no one in, says, no one understands. And you think I will understand? I think you should try, tell her your story. Show her it's possible to live on, that the pain is not forever. John thought for a long time, looked at Marina's photograph. He was no psychologist, did not know how to choose words, find right phrases. He was a hunter, taciturn loner. But he knew pain, knew what it was like to find children's bones in shackles, knew how to live with that knowledge. Maybe that's enough. Okay, he said, I'll try. Marina lived in the neighboring city, an hour by bus. John rode, looked out the window, thought what he would say, what words he would find, did not know, decided he would speak plainly, without embellishment, without psychological techniques, just the truth. Marina's apartment, ordinary 5-story building, 3rd floor. John rang for a long time, no one opened. Then footsteps, lock clicked. On the threshold, the same woman from the photograph, but different, aged 20 years, eyes empty, dead. Who are you? John Crawford from the foundation, they sent me. I don't need any foundation. I know, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a person who wants to talk. Marina looked at him, long assessing. You're the one who found the bunker, right? Pause. Then she stepped aside. Come in. Dark apartment, cluttered, curtains drawn, no light. Photographs on the walls, boy everywhere, the same boy, Misha. Marina sat on the sofa, wrapped her arms around her knees. What do you want? To talk. About what? About how bad I feel, how I can't live. Everyone knows that. Everyone says, hold on, time heals. He wouldn't want you to suffer. Nonsense. Agreed, nonsense. Marina raised her eyes. Then why are you here? John took a breath. I found 17 children, he said, in a bunker, underground. My uncle kept them there, tortured them, killed them. Marina listened, silently, without interrupting. I saw their bones, saw the cage they sat in, saw the shackles on small hands. John spoke slowly, heavily. I read the killer's diaries. I know what he did to them. Why are you telling me this? Because I understand, not as a psychologist, not as a stranger, as someone who saw hell. Marina was silent, looked at him, and something new appeared in her eyes, not hope, but interest. And how do you live, she asked, after all that? John thought about the answer. Badly, he said honestly. I don't sleep. I have nightmares. Every day I remember. Every day I blame myself. For what you didn't kill? The killer was my uncle, my blood. I could have noticed. Could have stopped him. I didn't notice. Didn't stop him. That's not your fault. I know, with my head I know. My heart can't believe it. Marina nodded, understood. Such things cannot be explained, cannot be proved. Guilt is irrational, does not obey logic. And what do you do, she asked, to live? I work, guard a school, watch the children so nothing happens to them. It helps a little, doesn't remove the pain, but gives meaning, a reason to get up in the morning. Marina was silent, looked at the photographs of her son on the walls. I have no meaning, she said. Misha was everything, without him, emptiness. I understand. No, you don't. You found other people's children, I lost mine. John did not argue. She was right. His pain was not her pain. Incomparable. You're right, he said. I don't know what it's like, but I know something else. Those 17 children also had mothers who waited, who searched, who did not find, and some survived, endured, found strength. Others didn't, broke. Followed their children. Marina shuddered. You mean suicide? I mean choice, every day a choice. Live or give up, continue or stop. It's not a choice, it's impossibility. I know, but still. John stood up. I won't tell you hold on or time heals. I won't lie that it will get easier. Maybe it will, maybe not. He walked to the door. But I'll come again, if you allow me, just to talk, just to be nearby. Marina looked at him, silently, motionless. Why do you need this? Because you shouldn't be alone. No one should be alone with such pain. He opened the door. Goodbye, Marina. John came to her every week. At first she did not open. He stood under the door, waited, sometimes left with nothing. Then she began to open, silently, but let him in. They sat in silence for an hour or two, without words, without conversation. Gradually she began to talk, told about Misha, what a cheerful, kind, curious boy he was, how he loved building sets, dreamed of becoming an astronaut, about the last day when he went to the yard to play and did not return. John listened, did not interrupt, did not comment, simply was there. It helped. Not immediately, not quickly, but it helped. Marina began going outside, first for groceries 5 minutes, then for a walk half an hour, then to work for the first time in 3 years. She did not heal. Healing is impossible. But she began to live, slowly, cautiously, step by step. That was enough. Olga called 6 months later. John, we have another case. Family lost a daughter, can you help? John agreed. Then another case, and another. He traveled around the region, met people, mothers who lost children, children who lost parents, wives, husbands, brothers, sisters. Each story unique, each pain its own. But something was common. Loneliness, feeling that no one understands, a wall between you and the world. John understood, not everything, not fully, but enough. He learned to listen, to be silent when needed, to speak when needed, to simply be nearby when needed. It became his work, his calling. He remained watchman at the school, evenings and weekends. During the day he traveled to people, helped, talked, supported. The foundation paid little, symbolically, but enough. John did not need much. Once a delegation arrived from Moscow, journalists, officials, important people, wanted to make a documentary about the bunker for a national channel. John met them at the monument, showed the place, told the story, answered questions dryly, briefly, without emotion. John Crawford, the journalist asked, young, intelligent eyes, what do you feel when you come here? Pain and duty, to remember, not to forget. You are a hero. You uncovered a crime hidden for 30 years. John shook his head. I'm not a hero. A hero saves. I was too late, 30 years too late. But you found the truth. Truth does not resurrect the dead. Truth only hurts the living. The journalist fell silent, did not know what to reply. The cameraman filmed the monument, 17 names on gray granite, candles at the base, flowers. Why did you stay here? The journalist asked. You could have left, started over. To leave would be to forget, and I have no right to forget. That's punishment. John thought about the answer. No, that's responsibility. Someone has to remember, someone has to come here, light candles, say names. If not me, then who? The film came out 6 months later. John did not watch, did not want to see himself on screen, hear his voice. He knew what he said was more important than how he looked. After the film, letters poured in from all over the country, from different cities. People wrote about their tragedies, about their pain, about missing children, murdered loved ones, unsolved crimes. John read every letter, replied when he could, when he found words, helped some personally, traveled, met, talked. It was more than work. It was redemption. Not of his guilt, of the guilt of everyone who stayed silent, who saw and did not speak, who knew and did not act. 17 children died because adults were silent. Now he spoke for them, for himself, for all. At the school they loved him. Children ran to him with questions, with secrets. Knew Uncle John would not betray, would not tell. Uncle John was their own. Teachers respected him, knew his story, understood a man who had been through much. The principal, Elena, once said, "You were the best watchman we ever had, not because you worked well, but because you cared." "That's my job." "No, that's your nature." John did not argue. Maybe she was right. Every day he patrolled the school, checked locks, windows, doors, made sure everything was in order, all children present. Every evening he escorted the last ones, watched them go home, waved, wished good evening. It was routine, but important routine. He stood guard between children and darkness, between life and death. 17 children died because no one guarded them. These would not die while he lived. Years passed unnoticed, quietly. John aged, hair completely white, face deeply wrinkled, legs hurt worse, back would not straighten. 70 years old, no joke, but he continued, worked, watched, guarded. Children grew up. Those he knew as first graders became graduates, left for adult life, forgot school, but did not forget him. Sometimes came to visit, talk, tell about work, about families, about children, showed photographs. "Look, Uncle John, this is my son, named Misha." John looked, smiled, rejoiced sincerely, deeply. Life went on. Despite everything, it went on. At 70 he left the school, not by choice. Doctors insisted, heart misbehaving, blood pressure jumping, cannot work anymore, need rest. The new principal, young, tried to persuade him to stay. "John will find you light work. You'll sit at the reception, drink tea, no patrols." "No," John shook his head. "If I work then fully, sitting idle I can't." They gave him a ceremonial send-off, gathered teachers, children, gave a certificate, flowers, gifts. John stood before them, embarrassed, awkward, not used to attention, to gratitude. "Thank you," he said, "thank you for everything. These 15 years were the best of my life." People clapped, smiled, some cried. He left without looking back, knew if he looked back he could not leave. Life on pension turned out harder than he thought. Without work, emptiness, days dragged slowly, meaningless. Got up in the morning and did not know what to do. Did not watch television, irritated. Read books but tired quickly. Walking, legs would not allow. Letters remained. He continued corresponding with victims' families, with those he helped through the foundation, with people he never saw but who considered him a friend. Wrote by hand, slowly, carefully. Told about his life, asked about theirs. Simple letters, but important. Replies came regularly. People wrote about children, grandchildren, small joys, about learning to live on, about remembering his help. It sustained him, gave strength to get up in the morning. In spring he turned 72. Birthday spent alone. As always, cooked dumplings, drank a shot of vodka, looked out the window at the city, at people, at life. In the evening the doorbell rang. On the threshold a delegation, 20 people, old people, adults, children, familiar faces and unfamiliar. In front Nina Morris, aged but alive, with a bouquet of flowers, with a cake in her hands. "Happy birthday, John." John was stunned. Where did you all come from? From everywhere, Nina Morris smiled. We are the families, those you found, those you helped. Behind her, others. Maria Titsina, Vasia's sister, Kozlov's daughter, Smith's grandson, people he knew from letters, seeing them alive for the first time. And Marina Kovalov, the one he began working with at the foundation, no longer extinguished, alive, smiling. Beside her, a man holding her hand. This is Sergei, she said. My husband, we met 2 years ago. John looked at them and felt something warm spreading inside. She survived, found strength, began anew, loved again. Thanks to him. No, thanks to herself. He only helped, pushed in the right direction. Come in, he said. I won't fit everyone, but come in. They sat until late, drank tea, ate cake, talked, remembered the dead children, long searches, the day they learned the truth. John listened and understood this was his family, not by blood, by pain. People bound by shared tragedy. We decided, Nina Morris said, to meet every year in May at the monument, all together, to remember. That's good. And you will come. Of course, while my legs carry me. She took his hand. Thank you, John, for everything, for the truth, for memory, for us. It was the least I could do. No, it's more than you think. You gave us peace, gave us a chance to say goodbye. John was silent, felt words were unnecessary. After that night it became easier. Emptiness retreated, meaning appeared, meetings, letters, trips to the monument. A family appeared, strange, scattered across the country, but family. Every May they gathered at the Steel. Came from all ends, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Cherepavets, Krasnodar. Old people fewer each year, adults, children of those who lost loved ones, young, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They came, laid flowers, lit candle, said all 17 names. And added one more, John Crawford, the one who found us. John came every time, even when his legs failed completely, came in a wheelchair, sat by the monument, looked at the names, spoke quietly with lips only. Hello kids, it's me again. In his 75th year he had a stroke. Woke in the morning, could not get up, left side of body did not obey, arm hung limp, leg would not move. Ambulance arrived in 20 minutes, took him to hospital, placed in intensive care. Doctors said, prognosis unclear, may recover, may not. John lay, looked at the ceiling, thought about life, about death, about what is between. 75 years, 30 in the taiga, 15 at school, 5 on pension, and 10 years since he found the bunker. 10 years of pain, searching, redemption, 10 years with families, with memory, with truth. It was enough. He had done enough. He did not know, never would know. They visited him every day. One by one, 2 at a time, sat beside him, held his hand, talked though he could not answer. Nina Morris read aloud newspapers, books, letters, her voice quiet, calm, soothing. Marina brought photographs of her new children born in her second marriage, twins, boy and girl, showed them. Look, John, these are your godchildren. He could not speak, but could smile, one side of his face crooked, but smile. That was enough. A month later transferred to a regular ward, partial recovery. Doctors were surprised, at his age, with his history of illnesses they had not expected it. John began relearning to speak, to move, to live. Slowly, word by word, step by step. Speech therapist, a young patient girl, worked with him every day. Repeated syllables, words, phrases. Mommy, mommy, good, again. John tried, not for himself, for them, for the families who waited for him, for the children he guarded. He could not leave, not yet, not now. By autumn he was discharged. John returned home, to his small apartment, to his things. Walked with a cane, slowly, spoke unclearly, with difficulty, but lived. A helper came every day, Cooked, cleaned, helped. Young woman, Svetlana, single mother, needed money, he needed help. They suited each other. Gradually life settled, not as before, but life. John continued writing letters, with his left hand, crookedly, but wrote, answered those who wrote to him, kept in touch. The only thing he could do. In spring, he went to the monument again. They drove him by car. He could no longer walk himself, helped him out, sat him in a wheelchair, rolled him to the stele. John looked at the names, 17 names, 13 full, 4 unknown. So many years passed, and they remained unchanged, stayed children forever. "Hi kids," he said, "it's me, I came." Wind swayed the branches, sun broke through clouds. It seemed to him they heard. John died in November, quietly, in his sleep, fell asleep in the evening, did not wake in the morning, heart simply stopped. He was 77. They buried him with the whole world. People came from all over the country, families of victims, colleagues from school, people from the foundation, journalists, officials, simply acquaintances. The coffin was carried through the streets of the district center, slowly, solemnly. People came out of houses, took off hats, knew who they were burying, remembered what he did. Buried in the local cemetery, beside his parents. Erected a cross, placed an inscription. John Crawford, 1968-2025. He found, he remembered, he protected. At the monument in the Black Ravine, a new plaque appeared. This monument was erected thanks to John Crawford, the man who found the truth and returned peace to 17 families. Every May people come here, old people fewer and fewer, adults, children of those who lost loved ones, young, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They come, lay flowers, light candle, say all 17 names. And add one more, John Crawford, the one who found us. The bunker story became part of local history. At the school where John worked, they hung a memorial plaque. Here worked J.P. Crawford, a man who dedicated his life to protecting children. In the local history museum, an exhibition, photographs, documents, copies of diaries. A terrible story, but important. Students write theses, historians, journalists shoot films, writers books. 17 children are not forgotten, their names are known, their fate is told. That is the main thing. That is what John lived for. Svetlana, his helper, remained in the apartment. John left her everything in his will, apartment, savings, things, not much, but enough for a single mother. She raises her son, Vanya, named after John Crawford. Tells him about the man who once lived here. Was he good? The boy asks. He was the best, Svetlana answers. He protected children, like you will when you grow up. The boy nods, does not understand yet, but remembers. The taiga has overgrown the Black Ravine with young forest. Trees rose, pines, spruces, birches, birds sing, animals walk. The bunker is gone, filled in, forgotten. In its place, a clearing covered with grass and flowers. Only the monument stands, gray granite among greenery. 17 names carved in stone. And candles, small church candles. Someone comes and lights them, every month, all year. The children are not alone. Never alone again. They are remembered. And so ends the story of the hunter John, the man who found a terrible truth and dedicated his life to preserving it. A story about how one person can change the fates of dozens of families. About how truth, even if late, even if painful, is always needed. 17 children died because adults were silent. This story is a reminder. Silence is forbidden. To see evil and not speak means to be complicit. Remember this. Speak, protect. If you like the story, subscribe to the channel, write in the comments which city you're from and how old you are. What do you think? Could John have acted differently? More gripping stories ahead. even more unexpected. Don't miss them.